Oh, good morning. It's Tuesday, September 14th, our second practice of the session. We'll start by laying down on our back on the mat. So if you aren't already on your mat, go ahead and make your way there now. And you can lie down on your back. You may prefer to be fully stretched out, in which case I'd ask you just for a moment, plant your feet, pick your hips up off the mat and then settle them back down. You may actually prefer to have your feet planted on the mat, slightly wider than hip width apart, and then have your knees relax in towards each other. Just going to change my video view here. All right. There we go. All right, so I think we have our view correct now. So yeah, you're on your back. You are on your mat. And it's time for you to make some mental space for your practice. So I'll ask you to let your eyes become soft or close your eyes. And then take a nice big inhale all the way through your nose. Inhale. Feel your lungs filling from the bottom all the way up to the top. Big tanks. Fill them all the way up. Hold it for just a moment. And then sigh your breath out. Release it. Letting it go. And again, inhale. Big breath all the way down, feeling the diaphragm, a little bit of pressure there, feeling the lungs expand, holding for just a moment. Let it go. You can sigh it out. You can be as exaggerated as you want. No one's there to watch you. It's fine. Be silly if you want. You could add in lion's breath if you want. So inhale through the nose, nice big inhale. And on your exhale, stick out your tongue. It sounds funny, but it feels great. And just let it all go. Remind yourself that you have made time and space for yourself on your mat. And this is your practice to do with as you wish. So during our practice, if at any point you feel like modifying a pose or freestyling it, or you feel that your body needs to take a rest, go ahead and do that. Listen to what your body needs and honor that request. And now you can begin to slip into a practice breath. So you've made the time and the space on the mat. Everything else can wait. And now just tune into your breathing. On an inhale, count to 4. Hold for a moment and then exhale through the nose, counting to 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold. You can begin to generate your own breath. Inhaling deeply. Sorry, I'm just playing around with the screen setting there. Inhaling deeply, holding when it feels comfortable for you, and then exhaling, perhaps swirling the breath at the back of the throat a little as you exhale through the nose will produce a bit of a hissing sound. It feels kind of warm, nice in the back of your throat because it keeps the heat in a little bit. Plus you sound a little bit like Darth Vader, which is cool. We're not going to the dark side though. And if at any point during your practice you want to release some heat, you want to give off some of that, then you can open your mouth, exhale out through your mouth. So inhaling Hold for a moment, exhaling through the nose, unless you want to release some heat, in which case you can exhale through the mouth. And once you've generated your practice breath, you can begin to start taking small, gentle movement. So maybe you'd like to just start small, wiggle fingers and toes. Notice how they're feeling. And you might point and flex your feet. At the same time, you could ball up your fists and release. So kind of synchronize that. So clenching feet and fists and release. Tighten them up and release. Maybe give the knees a little jiggle. Maybe bend at the elbows a couple of times. Just flex and release. And then get long. Reach up overhead. Get as long as you can while you're long on your mat. If your feet are planted, you can stretch them out. So you can get super long. And then I'd like you to just gently lean to the right. So you're just curving your spine ever so slightly to the right. Stay for a breath. Come back to center and then ever so gently leaning to the left. I'm mirroring what you're doing. And then coming back to center. And now I'd like you to hug your knees up toward your chest, hugging the right knee toward the right armpit, left knee toward the left armpit. Hands are on your shins, helping you squeeze into a little ball. And you can even pull your head up toward your knees. So your head is off the mat. You're squeezing everything into a tiny little ball, getting as small as you can. And then exhale, bring your head back down to the mat, but stay on your back with your knees hugging in, drawing the right knee toward the right armpit and left knee toward the left armpit. I'm going to go ahead and take my spot on my mat. And I'd like you to send your left leg long on the mat while you continue to hold the right knee in. So we're just hugging in the right knee right now. Your left leg is long. You could activate those toes, peel that foot back actively. And then with your right knee, use your right hand to take that knee out to the side. So a little bit of opening in the hip joint here. And again, you can point and flex that right foot a few times, just adding a little movement here. Giving that hip joint an opportunity to gently open. And then bringing the knee in straight again. And then if you like, use your right hand and also your left hand, if you like, on that knee. And begin to take the knee as if you're using it as a stirring stick. It's a big wooden spoon and you're circling into the hip joint. Big, slow movement here. If coming out to the side is not really your jam, it's not really in your range of motion for today, then you could just more move the knee up and down. Rather move the leg up and down. But if you can, try and get the full range of motion. And then when you're feeling ready, you can go in the opposite direction. Just taking it nice and slow. And you can hug that right knee in. And then we'll switch it up. So send the right leg long on the mat. Activate the right toes. So flex that foot, pull the toes back. Hugging the left knee in, and again, just drawing it out toward the side, letting the left hip joint open and just staying there for a moment. And then you can point and flex the left foot a few times. Might feel like you're about to do a funky dance, which is totally cool. And then you can hug that knee back in toward the chest again, and taking the left hand on the left knee. Might want to get the right hand involved as well. Gently making big circles with the knee, getting into the hip joint. Again, follow your natural range of motion. So if coming out to the side is not in your practice today, and then just gently, you can just move that knee up and down. Find what works for you. And you can go in the opposite direction. And when you're feeling ready, just squeeze that left knee back in momentarily. Send the left leg long on the mat. We'll bring your right arm up overhead and gently roll over onto your right side. Just pausing there for a moment, allowing yourself to get your bearings and gently bringing yourself up to a seated position on your mat. Always like to come up slowly because sometimes if you come up too fast, you might feel a little lightheaded. So we move nice and slow. Maybe you want some water on your way through. And then coming up to sit, your choice. You may prefer to take a comfortable cross-legged position, or perhaps you prefer to have your legs stretched out in front of you. Either variation is great. The important thing is that your tailbone is down, your spine is long, and you're feeling yourself really tall. So the chest is broad, shoulders are down away from the ears, and you may feel like there's an invisible string on the top of your head that's gently pulling you up. So you're sitting really nice and tall. And then once you're tall, just isolate your head, dip your chin down to the chest. And on your inhale, bring it back up and gaze upward. Again, noticing and respecting your range of movement. Coming back through center on an exhale, chin down. Inhale, looking skyward. Exhale and chin down. Inhale, looking skyward. And then coming back to center. And now we'll take some gentle head circles. So whichever direction you prefer first, slowly circling the head, getting into the neck, being nice and gentle with it. And you can pause anywhere where you feel like you might need a little bit of extra attention going on there. I have one spot that is just constant. Left diagonal. As soon as my head is on a left diagonal, it's like, oh, you need so much more attention there. And then when you're feeling ready, go in the opposite direction. Again, just noticing, feeling, giving any sticky spots a little more TLC. And then bring the head straight back up. You can take your right arm, actually I'll mirror you. So take your right arm, reach up and over, bring the right hand onto the left ear, and then let that arm become really heavy so that that draws your head over to the right side. So you're not pulling your head over, you're just using that weight as traction and allowing your neck to get long through the right side. I've got my cat helping me now. Hey, Haruki. Hey, buddy. And you can release, bring your head back upright, and then with the left arm up and over, gently letting the weight rest on the right ear, drawing the right side of the neck long. And release. We will bring our left fingertips down to the side. Walk your hand out to the side and then reaching up and over. So making a big arch with the arm and then reaching tall as you can, as long as you can. Really allow the right rib cage to really open. If you want, you could even look up in the direction of your fingertips. And release, coming back up to center. Take your right fingertips down, walk them out to the side, reaching up and over. Again, let the left rib cage really open, maybe gazing upward. And coming back up to center. You'll take your right hand to your left knee, left hand straight behind you. Inhale to get tall. Exhale to twist. If you have your legs out in front of you, the left foot is planted. You've got about a fist width of distance between your legs. The right toes are actively peeling back. You can bring your free hand to the outside of your knee. Again, your backhand is right behind your sternum, your coccyx, almost like an extension of your spine. So getting tall and twisting toward the left. Let the head and neck relax completely. If you find that you're looking over your shoulder, trying to lead your head in that direction, and just remind yourself to just let yourself become soft. Try less effort, because really sometimes less is more. Melting into that twist with each exhale. And then you can come back to center and set up for the other side. So maybe you're cross-legged. If you're not, you can plant the right foot, a little bit of distance between the legs, actively peel the left toes back. Hand can come to the outside of the right leg, left hand behind. Inhale to get tall. Exhale, letting yourself soften into that twist. Again, reminding yourself to let the head and neck relax. Gentle breath. Just taking, anytime you come into stillness, it's nice to check in with your breath and just notice how it's flowing. And you can release. Apparently I have my hand raised. I don't know why on Zoom. All right, and you can come back to center. We'll grab our strap to do a little work with the shoulders. So just hopefully your strap is nearby. And I'd like you to take the strap out in front of you. So holding it with both hands and holding it wider than shoulder width apart. Okay, so I have my arms out fairly wide. You want to start gentle. So err on the side of wider arms. So inhale, stretching the band up overhead, holding it, and then encouraging it back. Maybe you find stillness here. Maybe you have a little bit more space and you can bring the arms behind. If you start really wide, you'll probably be able to find that. And then bringing the strap up overhead and lowering it in front of you. If you like, you could bring in your hands ever so slightly. Inhale again, up overhead, either hanging out or bringing the strap behind slowly. And then inhale, bring it straight back up over your head again and lower in front. And one more time, your choice. You could leave your hands as they are or bring them in slightly. Inhale that strap up overhead. Exhale it back, maybe coming back. And then inhaling it straight back up overhead again. And bringing it down in front. We'll then stretch our legs out in front of us. If they were anywhere else, then you will extend them in front of you. So you're going to pull your toes back toward you. And we'll take our strap. You can bend your knees to do this part, really bend them. Loop the strap under the balls of your feet and then sit up. And you're sitting up nice and tall and your legs are straight. A little micro bend in the legs. And we're just going to use the strap for a little bit of assistance in a forward fold. So getting tall, you can walk your hands down the strap and gently come into a forward fold. And I want you to stop where you start noticing sensation. So when those hamstrings start saying, oh, hello, what is it you're trying to do here? Then just stop right there. Just noticing where that activation begins. For you, it might be, you're still more or less sitting right up, or maybe you're a person who's, kind of a sensation junkie and you really want to get forward into it. Hi, Cheryl. All right, Cheryl's here. Good morning. So Cheryl, we're just stretching out on our mat. We're just doing a little hamstring stretch so you can bring yourself down and join us for a little hamstring stretch. And then you can sit up and release. And we'll bring our arms out wide. We won't need this strap for this one. You can bring your left arm under your right. You can either bring the hands onto the shoulders or continue to wrap the arms for eagle arms. Either is fine. No matter which variation you choose, push your elbows up and then allow yourself to duck your head forward and down in that space inside the arms. Really round into the upper spine. Allow yourself to breathe into that space and really expand it. And release. Arms can open wide. And this time we'll bring left arm under right. Again, you can continue wrapping or hands to shoulders. Push the elbows up, duck the head forward and down. Push back between the shoulder blades. So you're totally Quasimodo here. You're really, the upper back is hunched. You're pushing into that space. Breathe into it. And opening the arms, release, just take some gentle circles with your arms. Getting into the shoulders. And then gently release, go the other way. Just a couple of times. Good. And we're going to bring our legs around the side. We'll come into a tabletop position. So knees are directly below your hips. Your hands are below your shoulders, except if you have shoulder issues, you may wish to set them a little bit further forward. So your choice. And then we'll set up for cat and cow. So for your cow, I want you to lower your belly, let the hips raise up, and then looking forward and maybe looking up, not worrying about the up part. It's better that you just focus on making your neck long here. So inhale to cow, and then exhale, reverse the motion. Push up between the shoulder blades, drop the hips and head. Again, really pushing up between the shoulder blades here. Round spine. Inhale, coming through to cow. Belly down, hips up. Exhale, coming into cat. Exhale. Oh, sorry, I should say inhale, coming to cow. Exhale to cat. Take 3 more rounds of this back and forth motion with your own breath. You could slow it down. You could add some rolling motion, some wiggle. If you like, maybe you want to look over your right shoulder, bring your right toes to the side. And then look over the left shoulder, bring the toes to the left side. Just an option. You could hang out and just really work into whatever space you need. And when you finish your 3 rounds of cat and cow, just come back into a neutral tabletop position. I'm going to ask you to put your weight on your hands and on your left knee. And then we're going to pick up the right knee. So you're a 3-legged table now. Squeeze that right knee in toward your chest. And then exhale, send it back, foot flexed. Inhale, squeeze it in. Exhale, send it back. Inhale, squeeze it in. Exhale, send it back. This time we're going to squeeze it in and we're going to open the leg and the hip out to the side. So you're doing the fire hydrant. It is not a graceful posture, but it is very good for the hip. So begin to take circles with your leg and see if you can get that leg up quite high. You probably will feel this in the outside of the hip. If this is not an appropriate range of motion for you, then keep it closer to your body and you could go back and forth. But if you can get those nice big hip circles, do try. And then you can release and go the opposite direction. Nice and slow. Maybe starting to feel a little bit of work in the outside of the hip flexor here. I know I am. And then you can bring that knee down and we will shift the weight onto the right knee. So inhale the left knee in. Exhale, send that left leg back. Inhale it in. Exhale, send it back. One more time. Inhale it in. Exhale, send it back. This time we're going to hug the left knee in and take it up and out to the side and then begin to take big circles. So really lifting that leg upward and outward if that's appropriate for you. And starting to feel a little bit of muscle work in the outside of the hip flexor. Now, when you're feeling ready, you can reverse motion. Take it the other direction. And release, bringing that knee back down. I'll just remind you of the modification for downward facing dog. So if you would like to stay a little closer to the ground, you will turn your toes under, walk your hands out in front of you, open your heart in the direction of the ground. You can let the head and neck relax. The important part is that you're just really opening your heart toward the ground. If you prefer to come into the standing version, make sure you're really pressing into the base of each finger and thumb, turning the toes under and then pushing up and back. So whichever version you're in, I want you to think about really opening that heart. If you're on your feet, you can pedal your legs, straightening one leg, deeply bending the other, sending a little weight into each hip. One at a time. No matter where you are, big, deep, slow breaths. And then we'll all just come to stillness for one breath. And then I'll invite you to slowly make your way onto your feet and come to the top of your mat. Coming all the way up to stand. So standing nice and tall on your mat. So we'll all come to mountain pose. So make sure that your abdomen is engaged. Your bum is a little bit squeezed in. Shoulders are down and away from your ears. And you're standing nice and tall. Again, that invisible string pulling you straight up. We'll inhale the arms up overhead. Palms can meet. Get really tall. And I want you to just lean to the right for a second. Really breathing into the left side of your rib cage. Come back up through center. Lean to the left for a second. And then come back up through center. Your head can gaze slightly upward if you like. Now we're going to swan dive down. So nice bend in the knees, coming all the way down. Fingertips come down to the mat, coming into a nice relaxed forward fold. Like I said, you've got bend in the knees, so you're not locking your legs out. And then if you like, you can cradle arms one and the other and gently sway. Sway back and forth a little bit. And then you can bring your hands onto your shins. Inhale, come halfway up. Exhale, forward fold. And we're going to do that a couple of times. So hands to shins. Inhale, coming halfway up. Exhale, fold. One more time. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, fold. You can release your hands and then slowly, one vertebra at a time, roll all the way up to stand. So you feel vertebra after vertebra stacking up in your spine. Good. Hands are at your side. Inhale, breathe them up overhead. Gently gaze up toward the fingers. Exhale, forward fold. Fingertips coming down to the mat. Really bend your knees. Plant your hands beneath your shoulders. Step your feet to the back of the mat. You could momentarily come into a full plank or immediately lower to the knees. Untuck the toes and make sure you have a nice long line from the shoulder all the way back to the knees. So if you feel like you're a bit of a crooked line and your bum's up, get the bum down. So you're a nice long diagonal here. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, squeeze your elbows in, slowly lowering yourself down. Feeling the thighs come down and hips, belly, chest, and then finally your head. Hands can stay under the shoulders. Inhale your head up, lifting from the lower back, coming up into cobra. Exhale it down. We're going to do that 2 more times. Inhale that head up, feeling the lift coming right from the lower back, holding for a moment, and then exhaling 1 more time. Inhale it up, staying for a moment. Exhale it down. You can turn your toes under, and we're going to push back up to the knees, and then your choice. So if you're on your knees, open your heart toward your ground in your downward facing dog. If you prefer to come onto your feet, push the hips up and back. Both versions, hands are really powerful. Fingers are splayed. You're really pushing down at the base of each of your fingers and opening that heart towards the earth. Nice big breaths here. And then no matter where you are, you can come onto your feet, walk your feet to the top of the mat, and then again, roll up to stand tall at the top of your mat. Excellent. We are going to bring our feet in together. I want your toes to meet, but leave some space between your ankles. So you're slightly pigeon-toed here. So standing up nice and tall, we'll inhale the arms up overhead, and then you can part the hands, and I want you to sit your hips down like you're sitting in an invisible chair. Try not to let your bum stick out. Try and scoop it under a little bit. So you're sitting in this nice invisible chair. If the arms are a bit much for you, you could bring the hands onto your shoulders just to alleviate a little pressure there. Sitting nice and low, focusing on breathing. It's going to start to get warm in the thighs here. That's good. We're going to build a little fire. One more breath. And release. You can allow yourself to come into a forward fold, keeping a gentle bend in the knees. And then rolling all the way up to stand. Good. We're going to bring the hands onto the hips. I'll ask you to set your left foot forward in the center of your mat, and then step your right foot all the way to the back of the mat. And that right foot is going to be parallel with the back edge of your mat. So you're coming into your standing lunge. Left arm comes forward, right arm comes back. Lunging, coming into warrior 2. Make sure you're really pushing down on the outside of the left foot. I think sometimes we think that the back foot is kind of just hanging out, but I want you to really actively push it down. Your your left leg is really bent, but you're also pushing the left knee out toward the left with the power of your big toe. So really active here. We can add in our archer arms. Inhale, right arm forward. Exhale, draw it back. Inhale forward. Exhale, draw back. 2 more. Inhale forward. Exhale, draw it back. 1 more. Inhale forward. Exhale, draw it back. Staying for 1 more breath. And then we're going to rotate the arms over, bend deeply into the left knee. You can turn onto your right toes, bring that left knee over to the side. And if you like, you could bend over your mat, set that right knee down gently, untuck the toes. We're coming into a lunge here. So you can bring your hands onto your thigh and come upright. Make sure that your left ankle is well ahead of your left knee so that you have room to go forward and down. If you like, you could have your block ready. So standing up nice and tall, inhale. On the exhale, let the hips begin to sink forward and down toward the earth, letting gravity help us here. If you're feeling lots of sensation, you could just stay right here the entire time. If you'd like to explore coming down a little more, you could bring your hands down on the block by your instep. If you feel that your left knee at any point is coming out over the left ankle, then just sneak that left ankle forward a little bit. Continue to allow the hips to sink down and forward. If you wanted, you could bring your hands down to the mat. Totally up to you. Just find a place where you come into sensation and you can just sit and breathe. Imagine that you have lungs in your hips and you could send your breath there. I know it's kind of silly, but if it helps you breathe better, I guess it's worth it. 2 more nice slow breaths. And then you can bring your hips back, draw your left foot back by the right. Set the block off to the side, and you can bring your knees as wide as your mat. Your toes are going to touch, and you can bring your head down. So forehead comes down to the mat. Arms are out front, stretched out, coming into a child's pose, taking the opportunity to take some really nice, deep, relaxing breaths. You might even want to sigh it out. Maybe releasing a little heat. When you're feeling ready, you can come back up onto all fours, your choice. You can turn the toes under, send the hands forward, opening the heart, and kneeling downward facing dog, or you could come back onto your feet. In either case, take a couple of deep breaths, opening that chest toward the ground. And then in a way that makes sense for you, gently bring yourself back up onto your feet and rolling up to stand at the top of the mat. Good. So you can bring your hands to your hips again. We'll step the right foot forward into the center this time. Going to step the left foot all the way to the back of the mat. And again, make sure the outer edge of that left foot is really actively pushing into the mat. Right arm comes forward, left arm comes back, lunge into the right leg, pushing the right knee out to the side with the power of your right big toe. Chest is really broad here. Getting into the lunge, and then if you like, you can add in the arms. So inhale forward, exhale, draw that arm back, inhale it forward, exhale, draw it back. 2 more times. Inhale forward, exhale back. Make sure you stay in that lunge. Inhaling it forward, exhale, drawing it back, staying for 1 breath. Good. And then you're going to rotate your arms over and Bring them down to your mat. So bending over, nice deep bend in the knee. Come on to the left toes. And if you like, bend over the left side of your mat and then gently bring that knee down. You can wiggle your right foot out to the right side. Bring your hands up onto the thigh, coming into your lunge. So again, just making sure that the right foot is well ahead of the right knee, so you have room to go forward and down. You got your block ready by your instep. Inhale, get tall. Exhale, sinking the hips forward and down. Maybe just staying right here with hands on the thigh. Totally fine. Maybe you'd like to come into it a little deeper. Bring the hands to the block. You could even come down onto the floor. Finding a place that works for you. Letting the hips gently open. Gravity is a really useful thing. It'd be really interesting to try doing yoga in space, no gravity. Maybe I should start a program. Call Chris Hadfield. Be like, hey, do you want to do yoga in space? All right. Take one last breath. And then you can bring yourself back. So hip relaxes. You draw the right foot back by the left. Set your block off to the side. This time we'll bring the knees together for a kneeling version of child's pose. Hips are still back on your heels. Forehead can come down. Again, arms could be out in front of you. If you wanted to try the variation, you could bring the palms together, making sure your elbows are as far forward as they can, and then bending the arms, bringing your hands into prayer on the back of the head. Just a variation you could try. Nice big breath. And then this time, instead of going up, I want you to crawl forward and slither onto your belly. Good. So we're going to keep our elbows underneath our shoulders and our hands are stretched out in front of us, coming into cobra. So you've got a lower back extension going on here. You can modify this. If this is a bit much for you, you could bring your elbows a little wider, bring your hands over each other and just lower slightly. If you really like this extension, you'd like to try getting into it a little bit more, you can push into the hands, coming into up dog. Totally your choice, but we're just going to hang out here for a few breaths. Just allowing the lower back to relax. And then I'll ask you to bring your hands in the center, one over the other. You can bring your elbows out wider and lower your forehead onto your hands. Bend at the knees and gently windshield wiper the knees back and forth a couple of times. And then you can relax the legs along. We're going to come into a modified side plank. So I'll ask you to come back up through cobra. With your left arm, I want you to, so your left elbow is below your left shoulder, but that left arm is going to cross in front of you. We are going to use the right hand, push up onto your left side. You may have to bring your left hip under you. So it's like you're posing like a model, you know, draw me like one of your French girls. Okay, and you're going to have your hand on your hip and you're going to be pushing up from the knees. So if you wanted to bend your legs a little, you could. You don't have to stay in a straight line here. You can bend your knees back. Then I want you to push into your arm and lift your hips up. So you're supporting yourself with the elbow and the knee, and you're making a long line in the side plank. And then I want you to lower. Inhale it back up, pushing up into that side plank. Lower. Inhale it up. lower, and one more time, inhale it up. And this time, if you wanted, you could bring the right arm up, coming into side plank, holding for a breath, and then releasing down. Lots of big work there. It's not a big movement, but it's lots of work. So rolling onto the belly again, bring the right elbow underneath the right shoulder. Bring that right hand over in front of you so you're ready to support yourself. You can bring yourself on to the right hip. So you may have to slide your hips to make sure that they're right underneath you. And you can bend the knees so that your feet come back behind you. So your body is a straight line and you're ready to support yourself on your knees and on your arms. So make sure you're in a good position before you go anywhere. Your left hand can come to your hip. Inhale, I want you to push your hips upward. Exhale, lowering down. Inhale, push them up. Exhale it down. One more time. Inhale, push it up. This time you could bring the arm up overhead if you want, really coming into side plank. Oh, that's what I need. Thanks, cat. I need a cat bum in my face. And release. Coming down. Hello, Haruki, Sava. You're going to come all the way back down onto your belly again. Again, you can bring your hands underneath your forehead and rest your forehead down. Just taking a breath here. We are going to come into full locust. So I'll ask you to bring your hands down by your sides, down by your hips, on the backs of your hands. Your forehead is going to be completely down on the mat. Your hands are down by your hips, palms up. We're going to inhale, head, neck, and chest rise up. Exhale, everything else comes up like you're a superhero flying through the air. In fitness, they call this a Superman. Yoga, we call it locust. Inhale for one more breath. Exhale, everything comes down to the mat. And you can bend at the knees and just windshield wiper the legs gently. And we'll come into a second one. So again, legs go straight. This time, if you want, you could zip the legs together. So toes come to touch, zipping those legs up. Inhale, head, neck, chest come up. Exhale, lifting everything else up, feeling the lift coming right from the lower back. Staying for one breath. 1 second breath and release. Head comes down to the mat. You can bend at the knees once more. Windshield wiper again. And straighten the legs. Bring your hands underneath your shoulders, pushing back up onto the knees. Again, your choice. Modified dog, downward facing dog on the knees, or bring the hips up and back, coming into standing downward facing dog. In either case, nice, big, powerful breaths, and you may want to sigh it out. When you're feeling ready, bring your feet underneath you, make your way back up to the top of the mat and coming up to stand. We're going to be coming into the balancing portion of the practice. So if you know that you would like to have the support of a wall or a piece of furniture, you can go ahead and make your way there now. Oh, I feel like I'm the queen of dehydration. All right. So making your way into a place that will help you achieve an optimal tree. Your feet are now hip width apart. You're going to stand up nice and tall, abdomen's engaged, and you've already started engaging your glutes as well. Your hands can come onto your hips, but before you go anywhere, make sure you train your gaze on a non-moving point ahead of you. Just let your gaze rest there. You're just kind of zoning out. Then you can begin to put the weight into the left foot. Inhale, the right leg comes up. Exhale that knee out to the side and then plant the free leg. So it could come to the shin, the ankle, or you could put toe toes down, whichever you prefer. The majority of weight stays on the left foot. Squeezing your bum in. Hands can come up to heart center. Keeping your gaze resting on that non-moving point. Not worrying about shaking or swaying because trees totally shake and sway. If you fall out, just get back in again. And if you want to explore, you could try growing your tree on this side. You can bring your hands through heart center, down to the hips. Inhale the free leg up. Challenge yourself. Extend that leg out straight so you can hold it up for a breath. And then lower it down to the mat. Good work. So allow yourself to remain standing very tall. Transfer the weight this time onto the left foot. Sorry, the right foot. Inhale the left leg up. Exhale that knee to the side. Again, pushing the free leg into the standing leg. So you're really pushing everything together and up and in. You could picture your energy, it would be sweeping up and in. Keeping that gaze resting on the non-moving point. Hands can come to heart center. And again, you could grow your tree on this side. See what kind of a tree you got going on this week on this side. Don't expect that it has to look anything like it did on the other side. Keeping that bum squeezed in. Abdominals are strong, but also bending. Letting ourselves sway. If you bend, you don't break. And you can gently bring the hands through heart center, coming back down. Bring your knee in and up. Challenge yourself, straighten that free leg. Hold it for a breath. And then gently bring it down. Awesome work. We're going to come into our squat. So if you know that you would like a block to greet you when you get down, or if you just want to start from being seated, absolutely go ahead, make your way there ahead of us. If you're coming down from your feet are slightly wider than hip width apart and your toes are out on a 45-degree angle. Hands can come to heart center. If you're already seated, get your knees wider than your hips. And again, your toes are out on a 45-degree angle. Coming into our squat, nice and slow. You may find you come to a point and there's no going past that point. That's totally fine. You can bring your hands down and then help yourself down in a way that makes sense for you. Once you're where you want your full squat to be, if you're on your feet, you might wiggle around just a touch. Okay. No matter what, knees are wider than hips, toes are out on that 45-degree, and you can use the backs of your upper arms to encourage the knees out, or if that's a bit of a stretch for you, you could just use the weight of your hands to encourage those knees out. No matter where you are, find a sustainable position, the sensation that you are comfortable with, and just allow yourself to tune into your breathing. Also making sure that you're staying nice and tall, that you're not rounding into your squat, but that your chest is staying broad. Nice slow breaths. Two more breaths. And one more. So if you're anywhere but on your seat, Go ahead and make your way down now. If you were already on your seat, you can just release your legs so that your knees are still bent, your feet are planted. Your choice. You can bring your fingertips down on either side of you, or if you want to play with your balance a little bit, cross your arms in front of you. And then I want you to roll your knees over to the side and come up onto the right side of your hip, and then come back to sitting, and then roll up on the other side. So you're just going back and forth, allowing the knees to windshield wiper back and forth, but also rolling up onto the hip. Kind of allows you to give yourself a little bit of a massage through the outside of the hip flexor. Moving gently. And come back to center. And you can release. We'll bring the toes together. Allow the knees to relax out to either side. So you're making a nice big diamond shape with your legs. Sitting up very tall. And then exhale, allowing yourself to come forward. So maybe you're just coming into this very slightly, or maybe you're feeling warm and you have a little bit more room to come in. Finding your version of cobbler. No matter where you are, once you meet the place where you come to rest, that place of sensation, just breathe into it. And you can allow yourself to come back up. Bring the knees to center. This time, straighten the legs out. Peel those toes back toward you and sitting up nice and tall. You could just walk your hands forward, or if you wanted to use the aid of a strap again, you could do that. So maybe you bend your knees and then straighten them out. Your choice. Bringing yourself into a seated forward fold with or without the assistance of a strap. When you find the place where you're happy, just resting in your fold, really remind yourself to let the head and neck relax. One last breath. And release. You can set your strap off to the side. If you are not lengthwise on your mat, then orient yourself that way. You're going to plant both feet, hands on the knees. Inhale, getting really tall. Exhale, release the arms, stretch them in front of you, and see how slowly you can lower yourself onto your back. So really resisting just tumbling back, trying to hold the muscle tone until you can't anymore and you come all the way back. You could have, sorry, I should have cued that better. You could have your block ready by your hips. We're going to do a couple of rounds of bridge, one of them with the option to do a more restorative bridge. So have your block by your hips. Hands are down by your hips, palms down. Your feet are planted just below your hips. And you are ready to do bridge. Your head is looking straight up towards center. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, push into the feet and the backs of the arms, bringing the hips up to come up into bridge. Staying here for a few breaths, really pushing powerfully into the feet and the backs of the arms. Really seeing if we can get those hips a little bit higher. One more breath. And release the hips down, windshield wiper the knees back and forth. Next bridge, we'll be going into the restorative version. So just have that block ready. Hands down by the hips, head straight up overhead. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, pushing the hips skyward, taking a hold of your block. And on the low side, bringing it under your coccyx. So not under the middle of your back and not under your bum, right in between there, so that flat area on your lower back can come down to rest on your block. Your hands can just be down by your sides. We're just going to hang out here and bridge, allowing ourselves a little more back extension. And we're going to come out now, so be ready. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, push your hips up. Take the block out from under your lower back. See if you can stay for one more breath, pushing those hips high, and then releasing them down. You can have your block over by your left hip now. We're going to come into a twist. So you have some options here. You could leave your legs exactly as they are. Just bring your arms out into a T and allow your knees to relax over to the left. If you'd like to twist a little deeper, you could cross the right leg over the left with no gap between the thigh, and then lower the legs over. No matter which version you choose, allow your hip, so your left thigh, to come down onto the block so that you have support under your hip. How far away you want that support will dictate how deeply you twist. If you really want to twist, then you can just eliminate the support. But the idea is that you can have your left thigh resting on the block, so you can really let your muscles go and just really fall into the twist without any effort. Just really let yourself melt. If you wanted to go a little further, you could turn your head to look over your right shoulder, exploring how that feels. Just making sure that both of your shoulders stay firmly planted on the mat. Allowing yourself to just relax into this nice, delicious twist. Nice, slow, even breathing. And you can release. So if your head was looking anywhere but straight up, bring the head back to center. Gently bring your legs back upright. If they were crossed, uncross them. Grab your block and just bring it over by your right hip. If you know you don't actually want to use the block, then don't worry about it. But if you know you want support, depending on how much you want, you may have your block in very close to the hip or a little further away. Again, arms in a T. So you could start by just relaxing the knees over. Or if you'd like to, cross the left leg over the right, no gap between the thighs, then allowing the legs to relax over. If you need to adjust your block, go ahead and do that. Make sure that your legs can really relax onto that support, that you could totally just release into this twist. No effort here. So allowing yourself to get nice and soft, making sure both shoulder blades are staying planted on the mat. If you wanted, you could explore looking over your left shoulder. Just finding that nice place where you can just totally relax. Again, letting gravity do the work here. And slow and even breaths. One last breath. If your head is off to the side, gently bring it back to center. Bring your legs back upright. You can just set the block off to the side. If your legs were crossed, you can uncross them. And then I'll invite you to hug your knees in toward your chest, much like you did at the beginning of practice. So hugging right knee to right armpit, left knee to left armpit. You could roll around here on your lower back, or you could explore happy baby. So drawing the feet up toward the ceiling, reach your arms inside of your knees, and you can either take a hold of your feet from the insides, which is stirrup, or reach them around the outside, coming into happy baby. Sorry, drawing the knees toward the armpit and flattening the back, and then you can roll the back on the floor. Really getting into the lower back there. Just give it a nice little massage. And then if there are any last movements you'd like to take in your practice, I'll invite you to go ahead and take that now. So maybe you'd like to really stretch the legs out here. Some of us like to really have a good stretch, or maybe you just want to get long on your mat. Maybe stretch as long as you can, whatever works for you. Taking any movements you need, and then go ahead and get comfortable before you come into Shavasana. So maybe you'd like to grab a sweater or a blanket, a little bit of water. And then make your way into your Shavasana. You might wish to grab a pillow or a rolled blanket. You can pop that under your knees and allow your legs to really relax onto that. You could prefer to keep your Shavasana with your feet planted a little wider than hip width, and then allow the knees to relax in toward each other. No matter which version you choose, pick your hips up just slightly off the ground and then settle them back down so that your hips feel really comfortable and your lower back has lots of space. Your hands could rest at your side, or if you'd like to keep in a little of the energy and heat you built in your class, you could place your left hand over your belly and your other way around, right hand on your belly, and left hand over your heart. Once you come into your Shavasana, allow yourself to take a few of those nice big resetting breaths. So inhale, hold it at the top, nice big lungs here, and then exhale, sigh it out. You can let it be really audible. Just no one's around, just sigh it out. And again, inhale, big breath in, filling all the way up to the top, holding for just a moment, and then exhale, releasing the breath, and with it, releasing effort, intention, expectations. Just let all of that go. One last time, big inhale, holding for a moment, and then exhale, releasing it all. Allowing your body to become a soft, gooey mess. You are a human puddle. No resistance here, just allowing yourself to melt down into your mat. You can let your practice breath go and just allow yourself to breathe naturally, peacefully. Keeping in mind that this is still your space, your time, and that resting, sometimes we have this urge to rush off our mat when we're done, but it's really optimal if you can allow yourself to just become completely still and let your mind focus on what you're feeling in this moment. If your mind tends to want to wander off your mat before it's time, gently bring it back. You could focus back in on your breath. Allow yourself to just take this time to absorb the benefits of your practice and find a nice, deep state of relaxation. And I'll be here to let you know when it's time to go. You can start to bring your awareness back to your body. Just taking a moment before you even begin to move, just take a moment to notice how your body's feeling. Notice where it's feeling warm, relaxed, loose. And then you can begin to invite movement back. You wiggle fingers and toes, maybe open and close the fists. Open and close your jaw a few times and release some tension. And then I'll invite you, you can take a big stretch, like you're waking up all over again. And then roll over onto your right side, pausing there again, allowing your body to acclimatize before you bring yourself up to a comfortable seated position. Slowly bringing yourself up. And once you're upright, you could take a comfortable cross-legged position, or your legs could relax in front of you. You're sitting nice and tall. Chest is broad, shoulders are down away from your ears. You can bring your hands to heart center. Take an inhale and lower your chin to your chest. Yoga is not about being good at something. It's about being good to yourself. Thank you for joining me for practice today. Namaste. All right, so